sorry. Okay, so my caseworthy, school assessments, and EOY. Your list should just have your one school, and this is where the color coding that you've seen pop up on your school. If you try to go in your needs assessment, this is what the color coding is telling us here at the top. It's about where you are in the end of year workflow. So red is unstarted. Most people have not started them. A couple of them are complete. It's clear when it's complete. So to get into your end of year workflow, you're going to go to your site, you're going to click your three dots, and you're going to click on School EOY Data. School EOY Data will take you to previous end-of-year data workflows and forms. If your site's been here before, or this is the first time, then you will have it blank. And up at the top right, we'll do a Start a New School EOY Report. And that's going to open a pop-up, which I will bring over here. Similar to other workflows, if you've opened one, if you're already in the process of one, it'll kind of come up these little bookmarks, so you can always just click New Workflow to move past it. But this is our end of year workflow, similar to the enrollments, needs assessment, support plan workflows. We're going to go through step by step, just like other workflows. So the first couple pages here, we are just confirming existing data that's been entered in here. So make sure that your school name and everything looks correct. Your school type and grade level should be accurate, but occasionally, especially when they're new buildings, we might put something in ahead of time. I think as site coordinators, you won't necessarily have edit abilities for all of this. So if you do notice something that is wrong or needs to be updated or changed on this page and you don't have the ability to update it, that's when you would email your program manager or myself or Jacob, and we can come in and edit the school profiles here. But just as a note, for the different school types, elementary is just grades K through 5. Middle schools are just grades 6 through 8. And high school is just grades 9 through 12. So if you have any other combination, if you're an intermediate school, if you have a middle school with a 5th grade support, you have elementary school with 6th graders, or an elementary school that just goes to grade 3. If you're within that, so if you're just K3, we would consider that elementary. If you're K6, that's going to be combined any other K-12 combination. Again, these things should be entered accurately already, but if it's not, go ahead and either make the change or request that we update that. Same for the grade levels. The grade levels that are selected should match the type that we put in here, and that the system's going to do that. So they'll come back at us if we say that we're an elementary school and we serve grades K through 6. Same with the address. Everything should be fine. Your principal name should be in the primary contact. So if you've had a change in your principal, please go ahead and update that or let us know and we'll update it. And then there will be the website URL. So if it's empty here, you will have an opportunity to enter the website URL later into the workflow. But if we've already added one in here, just make sure it's correct. For this, I'm just gonna put in a website, but we will have to keep the website. So National is doing a lot more tracking of our school's site, our building data. So they also really are double checking to make sure that all our NCES IDs match the names and everything like that. So that's on us. We're doing that to take care of it. And then your site should be accurate and all that kind of stuff in there. So this is just confirming data that's already been entered into System for the most part. The website URL is the only thing that has been added into this form that might not have been entered at the beginning of the school year. We'll click Save to move to the next section. So these are your school and community demographics. They're pulled, again, from the needs assessment. So data we've already entered in the system. So you're just verifying everything. When it comes to Title I eligibility and the community eligibility provision, we do need to match our Title I statuses with the records that exist. it is honestly kind of hard to find. I can't get a list of all the schools in our network and what their Title I statuses are. Sometimes some states keep that data. Our state PD doesn't really make that presentable in an easy way. So you might have to ask and verify with your building leadership, is this a Title I, are we Title I eligible, and do we have services? It will, does the school receive Title I funding? Yes or no. Is the school Title I eligible? Some Title I schools, just because you're eligible for Title I doesn't mean that they take the funding. And there's also different types of Title I funding. So it may be just a couple of conversations to confirm that. But please do just double check if you have any questions on whether or not you're receiving what your Title I status is. Similar with the community eligibility provision, this is a situation in which, regardless of a student's individual status, they're going to be eligible for free and reduced price lunch. So I believe Reading, Allentown, our big urban districts do fall into the community eligibility provision. For smaller districts, again, if you're aware that students who are not individually qualified for free and reduced lunch, but everyone just gets free lunch at your school, that's what the community eligibility provision is. So please, again, if you're not confirmed on this, ask either your principal or food services in your district to figure out yes or no whether or not there is a community eligibility provision there. If everything's in there from the beginning of the needs assessment, looks correct, and you entered it, no need to change there. For the enrollment number, again, no need to edit that. Everything in this section can be edited in the needs assessment, so you can go in and do that if you don't have, if you're not able to edit directly into this workflow. I understand that school populations do change, enrollment changes over the course of the year, so we do keep just a snapshot number. So that number that we captured at the beginning of the year in the needs assessment should still be accurate and usable for us. If your school has changed significantly, like you've added more than 100 students or lost more than 100 students, then we should consider updating that number. But the total number of enrollment is really important because it's how we measure our Tier 1 saturation. It's how we measure our case management saturation. It's how we estimate parent engagement in there. So that number is really important and always something that you should keep in mind. I talk about it a lot. So everything else, if it's starred, it should have accurate data entered into there. Our demographics and everything should be pretty accurate from the beginning of the school year. These are all optional demographics, but if we follow some of our internal guidance, there's some things that we try to capture as much as possible. Stuff like student to teacher ratio is great if we have it, but not necessarily required. So nothing, if this is empty in your end of year workflow, at least economically disadvantaged shouldn't be empty, but if it is, there's, again, you're not required to go in and put it in at this point, but we keep going through. We do have a couple of fields here that are very important. So average daily attendance, everyone should have a number in there. That's from the needs assessment. Annual graduation rate. So the graduation rates I do want to talk about briefly. There is no requirement to have our graduation rates in there. And if you are not at a high school, then you do not have a graduation rate. So if you're at an elementary or middle school or anything where you're not graduating seniors, your graduation rate will be blank. You can leave it blank just like it looks like here. But for everyone, regardless of whether or not you're a high school or not, you should have a 4 and 5 year cohort graduation rate entered. If you're in elementary and middle school, you're going to put in 999. That's the sort of SISDM shorthand for NA, essentially. But we need to have a numeric value in there, 999. If you are a high school, we should have looked at this over the summer, but if it is empty or you need to update it, reach out to me. The 4 and 5 year cohort graduation rates are all different from the annual graduation rate. So all three numbers should be different in here. It would be very unusual for there to be any alignment of 4 or 5 year or annual graduation rates. I can explain how that is calculated afterwards, but I have a file from last school year that has all the 4 and 5 year graduation rates for our network. So reach out to me if there's anything missing there. But that's it. So if you're an elementary or middle school and you don't see 999 in here for the 4 and 5 year, please do put in 999. But graduation rate, this second box here can be left empty. Any questions on these first 2 pages? And feel free to throw stuff in the chat if stuff comes up, and I can address it when I take the next pause. So we'll save here and move on. Again, information pulled from your needs assessment, so your description about your site coordinator, your case management strategy, and your support team. Please make sure your principal name is accurate. Again, if there's been any changes, we can update that. And then for your designated site coordinator, it should be you. All right, if you're filling this out, you should be the designated site coordinator. So if you replace someone and you see someone else's name there, let us know and we'll make it a change. We'll change it for you if you can't change it yourself. But you should be the designated site coordinator if you're there. And then your support team information will appear here. So just verify that all that is accurate. Okay. So this is where we're getting into some new data entry, some new fields that will be blank for everybody. But again, we are just confirming things that have already been reported in system for the most part. So the website URL. So if your website was missing from the previous page from the school profile, this will be a place where you can enter it in. So you can you should be able to edit this field as a site coordinator, the URL. We have a couple of things here now. Student information, the total school enrollment, that's pulled from the needs assessment, so we confirm that number. The case managed student number is pulled again from SysDem, so it's automatically pulling any student who qualifies as case managed in SysDem. Keep in mind that when they're doing this, they're not taking in the 45 days and stuff into account, right? So this is when we're talking about served with case management. This number may be different than, maybe bigger than the number of official case managed students that you're having, but make sure that looks accurate and is where it should be. So that just confirm that. And then we have a new field. How many students at the school participated in only whole school supports? So essentially what we're looking for is the max number of students we served with tier 1 supports minus the number of case managed students. And so it has a little field here that's automatically doing some math here. If I put in 400 students, then I'm going to get a whole bunch of errors. But this number updates. It says the total students served we're calculating now is 437. So that's the 400 plus the case managed student. But now I'm getting a couple errors here. So if you do put in a number that exceeds the number of total students enrolled, you can't serve 101% of your school population. So that's going to be a flag. So if I take this down to 300, that's, I guess, 298, 295, let's say. That'll get us within that. So we get rid of the error. Now we're serving only 332 students. So we're within the margin of the total school enrollment, so that's good. But we see another flag. The total number of students served is greater than 80% of the total school enrollment. Please confirm this for accuracy. Okay, this is an update to the form this year. And as you know, our tier 1 saturation guidelines ask us to reach at least 75% of the school population. But National is now looking at our data and being a little bit skeptical and saying that if schools are supporting 100% of their student population through tier 1s, that is statistically pretty unlikely, right? For any individual tier 1 support, there's going to be some students who miss it, some students who are absent, right? So they've unfortunately put a threshold in here for if you're reporting more than 80% of your total enrollment served with tier 1 supports, it's going to give you this flag and it's just going to make sure that you know that we need to be accurate. So all of this is just about the accuracy of our data. We do have to meet at least the 75% threshold in the students that we're serving through tier 1s. But when it comes to all school supports, really what it comes down to is we need to have some sort of clear description or documentation or evidence that we are reaching the number of students that we were reporting. So, supports that are offered and available to everyone. We talked about this at the last CIS day. Availability of a support to the whole school is different than the participation or engagement of the whole school in a support. So even things like carnivals or back to school nights or things, if we are tracking meaningful engagement in those events, then we can report that out to the total number of students that we tracked as engaged. But if we held a whole school-wide event and we just said everyone came and we didn't take attendance, we didn't do any sort of counting or anything like that, then that's a place where we're starting to enter a gray area. So we may have served over 80% of the students on that day. We may have not. And so when we say, please confirm for accuracy, it is going to ask you, I'm going to ask you to just double check and think for those tier 1 supports that were serving the majority of your school or you put in as whole school supports. Make sure that you have some sort of sign-in sheets, rosters, counts, or documentation or a plan in the support description of how this support reached every single school or every single student. As another example, I was going back and forth with Becky today about an attendance raffle, right? So attendance raffle available to any student who exceeded some sort of attendance threshold in a period of time. That's available to every single student. So in the past, it had been reported as a whole school support. But recently, we decided to make the decision to only report the number of students engaged who actually met that threshold. So if to be eligible for the raffle, you needed to come to school for 2 weeks with no absences. Only students who had perfect attendance for those 2 weeks would be considered engaged with the support in there. So if students were absent or missed or weren't eligible for the raffle, we wouldn't count them in there. Okay. So this is probably going to be the most labor intensive number that you have to put in, is to figure out how many students at this school participate in your tier 1s outside of your case management number. So that's there. I'm going to run through the rest of the page and then I'll open up for questions. How many total alumni were served during the reporting year? Include only students in grades college, other, or unknown. So I don't believe that we are serving any alumni right now, but in the future, with MAC here, in a future year, if you do have supports that are engaging students who graduated this year in the following school year, you might have a number there. But if you don't have any alumni engagement, most of us don't, we can just leave it as blank or as NA. School information, some of this is pulled again from the needs assessments. How many consecutive years has CIS been present at the school? How many concurrent paid site staff positions does the school have for the school year? So this is helping us if there's been a transition at your site. If you replace someone, then most of our sites are going to be 1. If you're at a full-scale site, so if you have the community school coordinator and a site coordinator, that would be 2 paid site staff positions. If you have an activities coordinator, that's going to be a paid site staff position. If you are by yourself as a site coordinator just working on your own, then you are just a 1 paid site staff position for that school year. Okay, so just report out how many positions that you had there. And then we have a question of feeding into or out of CIS sites. So if you're unaware in your district of other CIS sites, talk to your program manager. But if doesn't necessarily mean case management. So just if there is a CIS site at a lower grade than you that does feed into, those students do come, even if they're not case managed, then we would consider that yes. And sorry, I'm going to put in, I know that actually 10th and Penn, they just have 2. So 2 site staff. 10th and Penn's an elementary school. So actually, 10th and Penn does feed into existing middle schools with CIS coordinators, so that's going to be a yes. It does not receive any students from CIS schools because it is an elementary school and there's no CIS programs in our pre-Ks, at least not today. Parent information. This is a really important piece of data. We don't really have anything else to track parent engagement other than this number. The number you put in here will be the number that National uses. It might be the number that we use to understand and scale parent engagement. Um, when we enter in parents into SysDem, it's almost always just a sort of an estimate or a full number. It's duplicated. So if you went into the SysDem data and tried to pull your number of parents, you'd probably get hundreds and hundreds of parents pulling out of the SysDem. So this is your best estimate to deduplicate the number of parents that were engaged through supports. And that would be directly through parent engagement supports. So coffee and conversations that you hold for parents and they show up, great, those are parents who are engaged. If you have, a student presentation and some parents just happen to attend, if you didn't record that or plan for that engagement, that might not be considered parent engagement. So it should be parents who are engaged through explicit attempts to provide supports and documentation to parents. Once again, if I put 600 parents in here, I guess 700 parents, it will tell you if the number of parents that you've entered is more than twice the number of students, assuming that students would have a maximum of 2 parents apiece. That's the only threshold here. So let's say like 150 parents served. Lastly, there'll be some questions about community school. So community school doesn't just include our sites. So some Brockle, for instance, has a community school provided by Lehigh University. If you have a community school provided by the United Way or provided by another nonprofit, if they're an official community school, then you put yes, and you can put who the provider is. If you're a combined site with a site coordinator and a community school coordinator, the answer would be yes, and we are CIS of Eastern PA is the provider for that community school. Okay. Any questions on this page? Tier 1, max number of students.
Sean, just a quick question
again, because I'm new to I've done site coordination, but for the community schools. So if I'm in Union Terrace, that question you just went over, who's the community school lead provider? So in that case, I mean, I'm here by myself. So though I know United Way is affiliated, so.
But we are the provider. So United Way pays us to be the provider for that. So yes, so you will be yes, and we'll be CIS of Eastern PA. And then you will also see 0 for case managed students. And so really you're just entering in like how many students were served periods in there. You don't have to subtract case managed students, obviously. All right. So we save, we move into this. This is one of the most frustrating. I really have a hard time with this section of the workflow. So there's a couple of things that are happening here. One is that National is asking us to confirm whether or not we provided specific supports to specific types. And this workflow is asking us to confirm our own data that we've entered into SysDem. So there's 4 different support groups up here: post-secondary supports, targeted services, prevention, and other services. For each of these menus, there will be some supports that are blue and some supports that are starred. Any starred supports, we need to answer yes or no whether or not we delivered those supports or provided those opportunities to our schools. If we're saying yes, that we provided them, then we're expecting that there should be some documentation of that in SysDem. Okay, the ones that are blue are extra special supports, and in that case, it's mandatory that there is an exact match between what we're reporting in this workflow and what's been documented in SysDem. So to facilitate that, we have this little table, and this table tells us, looking at our existing SysDem data, have there been supports entered that match these 3 categories: college readiness, career readiness, and workforce development. So at an elementary school, not surprising that there's no. So no supports documented in SysDem, and if that is accurate, then we'll just confirm this down here that we did not offer our career readiness supports or college programming. We also did not provide any CS alumni programming at this site, okay? If at any time there is a mismatch between what you put here in the workflow, like if I put a yes here, we're going to get a flag, and then we either have to adjust the workflow, so change our answer here, or go back into System and edit the supports. So this might be a situation where you're like, I did career readiness. I know I did career readiness this year. It was in my support plan. I know I did it, blah, blah, blah. I had Mac come through and he did career readiness supports 100%. Great. So if that's the case and it's showing no here in the table, that means that we need to look into our support data and figure out how that support was entered or if it was entered. Okay. This happened with Mac. We expected to see his supports in college readiness, but they were entered in career readiness. And so the site coordinator doing the workflow was confused. They thought they provided college readiness, but not career readiness. And we just flipped them, understanding what Mac had actually done. But sometimes you have to go back and forth and change the supports that you entered into System to match what you think you offered. Okay. So the yeses and nos here are what National is going to use to determine the frequency or the commonality of these supports being offered in our network. So if you want your site to be counted as offering career readiness or college readiness, then you want it to say yes here, and it has to say yes here only if there are actual supports documented in the system. So again, the goal is to make sure that our data is represented accurately and completely as possible. We're not mandated to provide those supports, so if the answer is no, that is fine. No pressure there. It's just, again, having to be accurate. So none of these supports under targeted services are blue, so we're not going to do that matching. But again, answer yes or no accurately based on, did you provide supports for homeless youth? Yes or no? Did you provide supports for LGBTQ, English language learners? And this would be, specific supports that target those groups, not just that English language learners participated in our supports. Just filling this one. So prevention and intervention, we have 3 support types: anti-bullying, pregnancy, and obesity prevention. All of these have to match the system, so the same logic applies as the post-secondary. This table is pulled from your accurate system data, so it should be right, but if you are having any problem answering these questions with yes or no, again, you might have to edit your supports in System. The last page, other services, we have an ever-increasing amount of other services that are tracking in this way, so credit recovery, health clinics, home visits. Some of this, like health clinics, if you hover over the question mark here, you're going to see a drop down of support categories that you could have used in System that will count for health clinics. So there is no health clinic support in System, but if you provided an activity under health screening or vision screening or physical fitness, that would be considered as a health screening. And so for health clinics, in this table, we have a yes. So we need to put a yes here. Now, if you're looking at this and you're like, I didn't do anything for health, I don't know what's going on there, you're going to want to go into your either Tier 1 report or your Tier 2, 3 support data to figure out what support that was and how it needs to be changed or edited, or whether or not you need to change your answer here on the workflow. So credit recovery is a no. Health clinics are a yes. Home visits are a yes. Tutoring is a no. Mentoring, why is this out of order? Mentoring is a no. Parent centers are a no. Social emotional learning is a yes, unsurprisingly. Social justice opportunities are a no. In the slideshow that I sent you, it has updated descriptions for social justice opportunities, I believe for home visits, and I think for social emotional learning. I think those were new additions this year. And we'll finish it out. Okay, so for the last step on this section of the workflow is the information above complete. So this is a place where you can bookmark it, right? You have to get this done by the 19th, so you might be going through it. Let's say that you said, okay, I'm not feeling about this health clinic. I don't know what the health clinic support is, so I'm pretty sure I didn't do any support. So I'm going to put no. It's going to give you this pop-up. You can save it and you can move through, but you have to answer yes or no if it's confirmed. If I put no, then System will color code my entry to, I think, a blue or an orange or something like that, so that it tells us that this section is not confirmed. So that can be your reminder that I'm moving past, I'm saving this page of the workflow, but I need to resolve something with this health clinics. Okay, so if I put no, it'll be color coded, and we'll see that at the end, and I'll show you how to come in and change that. Questions about verifying those supports? Cool. The last 4 sections are confirming partners and then confirming evidence-based programs. Okay, for each of these sections, you're going to have at the top another bookmark button of saying yes or no whether or not they are confirmed. So once you feel like your data is accurate in the workflow, please select yes, and that tells us that it's confirmed and finalized, and we don't have to go and make any updates about that. For these sections, you're going to see a bunch of different check marks and drop downs for existing partners. Okay, these are national partners that are commonly used throughout our network. Leave them all checked green. Okay, just leave them all open, and then it defaults to not present at the school. So you're going to go through the list, and if there's anything in here, let's say Caring Treatment Centers. If you started a new agreement or came into the building new and brought Karen from our existing relationship with them into there, then we can say CIS brought the partner into the school. If Karen was already there, like you didn't bring it in, even if CIS originated that partnership in the past, or however Karen came to be offering supports there, if you're referring kids or helping to coordinate those supports or anything like that, then you can say that CIS works with the partner. And then there are situations like the Boys and Girls Club, for instance. If they're running a program there at your school and you have nothing to do with it, it's just sort of happening in the background, then it can be existing at the school independent of CIS. Okay, so again, there's no expectation that we are using any certain amount of partners or any specific partners, but just go through and look at each one and figure out if they are there, right? So Caring Treatments, I'll say we brought the partner into school. Community schools, we definitely brought the partner into the school as a community school provider in that site. So Jamie at Union Terrace Community Schools, yes, CIS brought the community school into the school. Gear Up, Girl Scouts, Girls on the Run, Goodwill, Higher Achievements, all these things. Teach for America. So if there's any Teach for America volunteers at your school, you could say whether they're probably existing at the school. We probably didn't bring in Teach for America, YMCA. So everything defaults to not present, but please go through and make affirmative selections as you go through. When you get to the bottom of the list, you have everything in here. Scroll back up to the top and remember to confirm yes or no. If you forget or you leave it blank, it might let you save, but then it will be color coded, and so someone, either myself or Jacob, will come and be like, hey, you didn't confirm your evidence-based providers, you didn't confirm your partners, you didn't confirm your supports, and that's fine. We're just, we have to make sure it's all done. Additional national partners, so these are ones that these are groups that have national profiles but aren't part of the official national partnership. So Avidum is a great example here right at the top. CIS National does not officially partner with Avidum at a national scale, but many of our sites do, and they are a national presence throughout the network. And so if you have Avidum at your school, you can uncheck it and say whether or not what your relationship is with that partner. These also include local partners that we have in here. So go through this list in detail and confirm. You'll see there's 3 pages down at the bottom. So you can either select between the pages or refresh it to load 100. You can change the number that it loads there. I moved through. I accidentally moved. Okay, so actually, just click the little numbers at the bottom to move through the different pages of providers. Don't refresh it because apparently it's saved and moved through. You can always come back in and edit the workflow, so I'll probably do that in a second. But so partners, we indicated all of our partners that we had at the school. If you had a partner that was not in the list, all the partners in the list should be the ones that we have agreements with documented in system. So if there's someone who you're getting to the end of the year and you consider them a partner, but they're not in that list, you can add them in there, but please only add them in there if we confirm they are an official partner with us, that we have the agreement on file. So really, if you're missing a partner, please reach out to your program manager or to the data team to confirm that partner is in system, and we can make sure to add it in there. But you can put in additional new partners. It's really important that you look through the list because we don't want to have duplicates, right? In this world for Avidum, if you could put in Avidum spelled incorrectly, and it would show up there then as a partner that we had listed at the end of the year. So try not to duplicate partners that are already in that list. So only add if you confirmed with us that the partner is accurate and should be added in there. Last step here, evidence-based programs. You'll recognize a lot of these. So our developmental relationships is an evidence-based program. You can see it right here. Again, these are our national EBP programs. So DR framework is in there. Sanford Harmony. Strengthening Families is one that is offered by Valley Youth House in many sites. PBIS. PBIS is something that's often present at our schools. We may work with them. We may not have any relationship with them. So whatever your relationship is with PBIS, if it's there, you can indicate that it's there. Sanford Harmony, say we brought this into the school. We brought developmental relationships. And that's that. So similar to the partners, leave all the checks checked there. And then once you've made all of your selections, go back up to the top and confirm yes or no about whether it is confirmed. You would only put no to the confirmation if it's like, ooh, here's a partner who should have been there, but I couldn't find. Then you can go ahead and put no and save it, and we'll know to come back in and double check to figure out how to resolve that partner question before clicking yes to confirm this. Click yes for now. And then additional evidence-based partners. So Leader, and you can see some of the duplication here. So Leader and Me is a school climate survey done, I think, in Allentown and Bethlehem school districts, and maybe done more broadly. But it's in here 4 times because at least 3 other times someone came in and was like, oh, I know a new partner, or I knew an evidence-based program that hasn't been listed here. It's Leader and Me, and they put it in the list. Just like you could do here, right? We could put in Leader in Me, and we would duplicate it. So very important to just thoroughly go through the list of evidence-based programs here. We have 31 that are in the list, and they're most common to click an existing one. If you're coming in and you do have an Olveus program at your school, there's 5 of them here, but you only have to click one. So just click the top one and put, whatever the selection is. Project Success, that's through the Center for Humanistic Change. That's something in there. Safe Perks, I'm not sure what that is. YWCA. Botfin Life Skills is something that's at a lot of sites. Gabby will probably recognize that over at Whitehall. So we'll make all our selections there, and then we'll be done with the workflow. Implementation relationship type. Uncheck it to disappear it. And we're saved. So the last bit here, now once you've saved the workflow, you will see a new line for the 24-25 school year. And you can do 2 things to edit it. One, you can click the 3 dots and you can get into the specific section. So for the partners, evidence-based programs, and types of supports provided, we would come in here to make those edits. So let me just back up for a second. Back to the school list. Pause load. So 10th and Penn, we did the workflow, but it's not white because if you remember the supports, the orange highlight here is because supports were not confirmed. So let's say that I went in and I confirmed my health clinics, and I did in fact, refer a bunch of kids for vision screenings. I forgot about it, but now I know. I go in here, so I can go to this year's entry, go to types of supports provided. It will pull up the same form. I can come right over here to health clinics, and I can change this to yes, and now it matches. And then at the end of this, the last page under other services, this is where I select yes or no to confirm this. So now when I confirm and click save, my EOY should be a complete, should show up white now because the workflow is complete and the supports, evidence-based programs, and providers are all confirmed. I guess just the last thing I'll say for the editing the workflow, if you press the blue button, it will pop you up the workflow again from the start. Just like the needs assessment, you can click through top to bottom and go through the whole workflow. So you can always come through and just save through the workflow again, top to bottom if you want to. This is where you would have to go to edit things like the school support team info, or some of the additional national partners and additional evidence-based programs. If there's something you wanted to add there, you'd have to come into the workflow and click through all the different steps to get there. All right. Okay. Questions? Anxieties?
Good. I gotta go sit with dinner.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, you're all good, Manny. Yep. So feel free to reach out to your program manager, myself, or Jacob as you're doing this. Again, we want these workflows complete by the 19th, and that'll give us a little bit of time. We'll be checking the data on the back end and confirming everything. I actually have to do that with National anyway, so we'll check and if we find any weird errors or things that we'll flag them for correction, we'll come back to you and ask. But we'll only check data that's complete. So if you're partway through the workflow, we won't look at it until you're completely done with the workflow. So feel free to kind of do it in fits and starts if you're getting stuck or have run out of time or whatever. I will share the recording. I'll edit a little bit to take out some of the weirdness, but yes, the recording of the walkthrough will be available. And then go ahead, Jamie.
Just had a question. So I know you said this is due 5/19. So if we have some events that are still planned beyond that date, and we're putting in it's asking that question about the number of parents engaged, number of students getting tier ones, do we need to guesstimate that number, or what are your recommendations with that?
My recommendation is to put in the data as accurately as it is right now. Okay, so just on the off chance that doesn't happen, right now we have to make a decision based on what is existing in system and what we're confirming in there. And the other reason is that National will check this and go back and forth with me at different and unpredictable times. So they probably won't. They might check it in the first week of June. We might not go back and forth on it until July, so I also don't know when they'll be checking it. But if it's accurate of the first week of June, I want it to be accurate of the first week of June. So don't make predictions or estimates about what you're gonna enter in the future. Just make the entries now based on where you're at. Yeah.
Thank you.
And it is normal to have a couple of changes that happen. Some of this you'll get changes as late as probably July on this workflow because it depends on when they're checking it, right? So, and it's not a big deal. It's pretty easy, and I try to resolve most of the changes on my end without coming to you. All right. So that's that. And